welcome everyone and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are standing from. Welcome to this second edition of Coachability session of 2025. So for those who are attending Coachability session for the first time, just I'll take 30 seconds to just brief what Coachability is all about. It's a platform that ICF Chennai chapter has designed specifically for the member and associates with a purpose to enable abundant growth by creating a series of knowledge sharing sessions and capability development workshops. Right, the session will feature workshops on specific coaching tools and frameworks, and it's basically a gift from the side of the coach who is initiating this to the community. Right, so today's session is about research in coaching, and we have our very own Baburaj Nair. So Baburaj Nair, as everyone, most of you are familiar, but I'll take a minute to introduce him for the session. He has over 3 decades of exposure in multiple industries, and he has covered various domains. He was Deputy Director of Social Development Center of Academy of HRD and youngest advisor to the Aga Khan Education Project, a prolific writer, author, speaker. He had developed over 14 coaching tools, wrote 40 plus articles in people management with the new frameworks, and published 4 books, 2 poetry of self-exploration and 2 books on HRD and leadership transformation. I can go on and go on. I know that even that will not do justice to Baburaj Nair's profile, but I'm introducing him for the session. Baburaj Nair, welcome you.
Thank you very much. And I think good afternoon, good evening, good morning to people from various sides of the country or from abroad. Thank you very much for being here. I'm first of all indebted to the chapter for creating this opportunity to be here. Coachability, like what Ranjit has indicated, it's a platform which we have created to showcase the skill set or any framework, anything they wanted to test out, anything they wanted to share and gift it back to the community. And that is so it is a building of skills of the coaches and also an opportunity to give it back to the society. So that's a nutshell about the coachability concept. And while we were discussing last year at the board level, we also felt that there are new initiatives which has come. One was on something called a book pulse. This is to create knowledge repository. In the book pulse is basically an opportunity for people to write reviews on coaching books so that there will be more learning and more understanding about. One is it's a forced reading, and the second one is that it's a body of knowledge which the others can read. That's a purpose of book pulse. The second one was research in coaching. So we have created a small group of people, and as you know that the research not only in coaching, in other areas, it's a very time consuming and very focused work which is required, and the mindset also would be different. So we were discussing, and then the idea came that okay, many of the people may not be knowing how to go about it. They want to do research, but they don't know how to go about it. Then the suggestion was that could you take us through a process by which how do we take it forward. Then coaching, again, when you talk about research, there can be multiple ways of looking at it, and it could create a lot of confusion and also a lot of jargons. So I was thinking that how do I explain about research in coaching, and with my all years of experience and exposure, I try to simplify this particular session. And I hope all of you who are spending time in the evening of today will enjoy this one, and feel free to question or share whatever you want to do that, so that it will be helpful for me, because I believe that the more you question, the more you share, it would help me and help others also to learn. So that is what we are planning to do. And like any of the part of the coachability, there will be maybe 15-20 minutes of time for experiencing and discussing amongst you the framework which we will be sharing here, so that when you are going back, at least you have some idea about, okay, this is what we need. Don't need to remember everything, but at least you get some idea about it and get some interest in this process. That is the ultimate aim of doing this session. So let me give a context in what research in coaching means. Research, it's a research on the practice or field of coaching, is researchers conducted by coaches, research that informs coaching practice, and research that explores the coaching process. So one is coach, second one is practice and process in related to coaching. So that is in nutshell when we are talking about research in coaching. And what I try to explain, there are 5 stages which I have tried to explain. Who actually is a researcher? Who is a researcher? How do you approach research? That is talking about address as a framework. Then what is mean by hypothesis? And I also try to explain what are the types of, broadly, what is the type of research, and the probable topics, general topics and the specific topics, which you can expand and add on to it. A few examples and then few outcomes. Okay, multiple elements, including disability and other aspects also I try to cover so that the topics are diverse. Then comes to how do you write and weave a magic. So that is, all these are acronyms so that again it is easy to relate. In the weaving, when I'm discussing, I will be also sharing tools and references list, what especially with the advent of technology, how research can be made easy. Then I will be talking why by doing a research, what is the benefit to the community, and as a researcher or researchers, what is the benefit to me as an individual researcher. Okay, so that is how I have tried to this one. So after this address, we will break it into a small group to understand the address and look at it. As and when you feel comfortable, you can take a, I will either put it into a chat box or you can take a, snap of this so that you, while in the discussion place, you will be able to bring it, whatever models which you are discussing. This is okay. This is the flow which I am going to do it. Is there any questions, anything which you need to do it at this juncture? Anybody, just since the group is small, just unmute and speak. Is it okay? Can I go ahead? Am I audible also? Clear? Okay, fine. So let us first. Yes, okay, fine. Ashwin, anybody want to speak? Okay, fine. So let me go to who is a researcher. Fundamentally, we are talking about a person, a researcher's the fundamental characteristic of a researcher is curiosity, the inquisitiveness of the person. So that is something without any judgments, without this one, a curiosity to look for something which he or she does not know. And therefore, I have created this acronym called CHILD. And a researcher should be curious. He should also be helpful to self as well as to others in the community. And so I don't think that all childs are curious, all childs are helpful, but therefore all people may not be interested in being a researcher. So researchers should have these qualities to be known as a researcher. Then a researcher also should be involved with a purpose. He should know that, yes, this is what I am planning to do and how do I am going to do it. He should be a learner as well as a relearner, because learner per se, it stops. Sometimes he learns something and then he stops it and there is no end to it. So a researcher always relook at it, what he learns with a new eyes. It's like a kaleidoscope, or maybe looks at it with a different patterns. When kaleidoscopes, when you look at it, you will see different patterns. So the same thing, and if you shift it, how it will look at it. So a person, a researcher should be a learner and a relearner. The fifth point is that he should be a deterministic and diligent. And when we say deterministic and diligent, I'm talking about he should be committed to uncover the insights, new insights, and meticulous and willing to invest his time and efforts to do or identify this discovery journey or take this discovery journey forward. So this is what I call it as characteristics which is required for a researcher, and CHILD as an acronym. I will pause after each slide so that anybody wants to stop me and ask me questions, please ask. Of course, there is a space for question and answer at the end of it, but I will just give a pause here to ask any questions, anything, just unmute and speak. Clear? Okay. Let me go to address. Now, any research, whether it is qualitative or quantitative, can use this framework called address. Address, even etymologically, also indicates a straightening out. It's a straightening it out. So address also helps you to understand what you need to do. You need to address a gap which is identified. You need to address a issue or an hypothesis which you need to look at it, and you need to identify, find out recommendations, and share it with the group of people. And first and foremost important aspect of any research is analyzing the gap and justify the need for the study. Why I should do research in whichever subject which I wanted to do it, whether identify the gap and understand it. So analyzing the gap helps us to know what is available. But when you are doing it, most important thing is that where you will look at it to do the literature review. So peer review or international coaching journals are available, and there are bona fide sources available, and only use that to do your research or literature review. The second one is defining the boundaries. That means the what is a hypothesis you want to test, what is the kind of a research population, the target population, what you want to do it, what's the kind of a scope you wanted to look at it. Is it interstate, or is it different age groups? It is different in a small village or in a small school. What kind of a context you want? All that boundaries are the second one. Define the boundaries. Then you have to develop and design the methodology. That means whether it is an explorative, whether it is explanatory, or whether it is evaluative. I will be explaining this going forward. What is and these are the broadly we can categorize the entire research into these three categories: explanatory, explorative, and evaluative. And then you have to decide what is the sampling which you wanted to do, how do you want to do this sampling, what are the what kind of a methodology, whether it is a survey methodology, whether it is a focus group methodology, whether it is interviews, in-depth interviews which is required. All these process methodologies are expected to be looking at it when you do a research, and that is the third stage of any research work. The fourth one is, when you do this, definitely you also need to pause and go through the first three elements. Try to see whether the purpose for which you have defined the hypothesis, whether you need to redefine, whether the design or methodology need to be redefined, because you should be willing to listen to others to test it out, check it out, and see what kind of a corrections which is required, and do that course correction. And interestingly, course correction takes time. Because first three stages you are mentally clear, and then doing review and do course correction. Sometimes we believe that, okay, this is, I think everything is fine. But when you do a review with in alignment with the purpose of our hypothesis, what we wanted to test, then we will realize that the process which we have doing it need to be corrected and reviewed, when we should be ready for that without any. And that is why I said a child, because there are no judgments, there are no inhibitions. He will be open to corrections, and that is why I have used the word child when as a researcher. Then comes ensure ethical consideration. In today's world, it is important that we need to seek consent, and especially as a coach, also we are expected to take consent. We are expected to have confidentiality. All these aspects. So the way in which this, either it is survey, whether it is an interview, whether it is a focus group, how are we doing it? Whether have we taken, or we may be using stories, because each coaches, we will be talking to them, taking this, converting that into a stories, going back to them, and ensuring that this process is clear and there is consent taken in writing. Therefore, there are no legal complications tomorrow. So ensuring ethical consideration is the fifth step of research. Then we will go for research, plan, implement the research process, then standardize the outcome. The most important thing when the data comes in, raw data comes in, is to relook at it and see which are the things which can be used. That means the correctness of the data, which sometimes some of the data will not fit into it, so that may have to be removed, cleaned up. So standardizing the outcome, aligning with the hypothesis, and see whether what are the insights which is happening, and also the correctness of the information and uniformly aligning with this one is this one. The last point, the synergize the outcome, is sometimes most of the places, though I am not a doctorate, I was lucky as the deputy director of a social development center of an institute. I was lucky to supervise or go through a lot of research activities and research theses, doctoral theses submitted to the institute, and was also instrumental in supporting some of the research work. And most of the Indian authors, when they sometimes some of them do publish this thesis, the entire thesis will be published as a book. And when you read that book, actually it is not readable. And the quality, we have a tendency to write in a manner which is very cumbersome and not easy to understand. So synergizing the outcome is that what are the recommendations you want to give? Is this recommendation is connecting with the hypothesis which we are looking at it? Can you create multiple outcomes out of this? That means, can we convert that into a book? Can we convert it into an occasional paper? Can we convert it into a specific blog? Many perspectives can be created. Can we also use new researchers out of it? So every research can be a poser for the next researchers or research, and therefore synergizing the outcome. So these are the 7 steps which are important while doing any research. Now let me take you through.
I have a question here. I'm so sorry. Is this the right time to ask the question, or should I wait?
Rajneesh, yes, please, Rajneesh. Rajneesh is asking?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Rajneesh, please.
Okay, this is about point number 1, the analyze phase. And I'm just curious to know that once I identify a topic for research, how should I go about identifying the resources for doing that research?
Excellent question. Can you hold it for a few more slides, because I'm covering all that things, and sure. In case if you have not got the answer, I will come back to you and ask you whether you got the answer. If it's not, then ask this question again. I will explain.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fine, no problem. Good. Thank you, Rajneesh. So the first one, like what Rajneesh was asking, how do you identify the hypothesis? What is hypothesis, first of all? An hypothesis provides a direction, basically, and it is a relationship between coaching interventions and desired outcome. So when you are defining an hypothesis, the characteristic of any good hypothesis, it will be very specific, it will be non-ambiguous, that means easy to understand, and it should be testable. So an hypothesis, when you create it, and when I'm ending this session, I will also take you through where you will be able to do an hypothesis and test it out and all these things. So there are mechanisms today available, unlike 20 years or 30 years back, but specific, non-ambiguous and testable. And there are 4 types of hypothesis. One is a simple hypothesis, and the second one is a complex hypothesis. Third one is null hypothesis, and fourth one is alternative hypothesis. And we don't need to get confused with it. It is very simple. It is one variable and one independent variable and one variable. For example, when you are talking about a simple hypothesis, it can be a simple element. For example, a learner coach does a more effective coaching. A learner coach or a developed coach does a more effective coaching or impactful coaching, whatever way you want it to. Simple, non-ambiguous, and it can be testable. And that is simple. When you talk about hypothesis, it's complex hypothesis, there will be multiple independent variable and multiple dependent variable. For example, we can say that the coaching with a focus on goal setting and, let us say, positive reinforcement, goal setting and positive reinforcement is independent variable, and the dependent variable, that is an outcome which we are talking about, can be increased motivation or improved performance. So there are 2 elements in the independent, that is the initial one, and the outcome which we wanted to test out. So this creates more complexity because 2 variable components are there in both the hypothesis. The null hypothesis talks about starting with, normally it starts with a no. That means, for example, no significant difference in coaching effectiveness and coach development. That means if I don't need to be a developed coach or I don't need to be going for continuous development, and it does not have any impact for coaching effectiveness. So no significance. Null hypothesis talks about no significance. That means I am making a negative statement and try to test it out and see whether it is making sense or not. Okay, I know that it may not be. With our experience, we know that it is not. But can we do a research and test it out and create evidence around it? An alternative hypothesis means we are saying that if things are, for example, coaching intervention that focuses on goal setting and will improve performance significantly, higher levels of performance than if it is not. So than if it is not, or if it doesn't, is the way in which alternative hypothesis. That means if it does not happen, and that is the way it is, alternative hypothesis is created. But when you are starting a research, and if you are not, used to do this one, always better to start with a simple hypothesis and test it out and go for it. The next one, I was talking about three aspects: research, the exploratory, explanatory, and evaluative. All research can be, whether it is qualitative or quantitative research, can be put it under this. Broadly, it can be put it under this. One is exploratory, to gain a general understanding. For example, it can be used for interviews, focused, and when I'm talking about probable topics which can be used for research, I will explain a little more about the exploratory to gain a general understanding about coaching. The second one is explanatory, seeks to explain why and how the coaching intervention impacts the performance. And that aspect is more explanatory type of research. Evaluative, like yesterday, one of the gentlemen asked that, can you, it was a coaching research project which has been done by an international fellow and an Indian guy together in abroad. And the gentleman asked a simple question that, is there any development index to understand whether the coach has developed or not? That is assessing the effectiveness of development of coach. So is it evaluative? So these are the three major aspects of research approach which we will take it into it. In any of these three, surveys can be used. But for each of these surveys, the way in which survey questions are being asked, it will be different. When you are talking about explanatory or exploratory, structured interviews can be used, and that again can be converted it into a meaningful framework and outcome. I will explain it further when we are talking about the outcomes of examples. And I'm pausing here for a second. Let me know. Any questions?
I have a question, Babu.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
are talking about this. Talking about evaluative, right, research. So, and also you mentioned assessments. So it is like suppose we create an assessment which can be used pre and post session, and we gather inputs.
Yeah.
Does it come under evaluative,
Yeah.
or the assessment has to be qualified or something like
that? Yeah, but you should do a sampling. You cannot do one single. For example, you are doing an assessment of me and then post and this one. But if you have a group of people, that is again the hypothesis you want to test it out. But you are identifying the effectiveness of an intervention. For example, you have done a coaching intervention in an organization.
Yes.
Okay, for 1 year, let us say, and you wanted to assess the effectiveness, and that is in evaluative research for a group of 15 people. Okay, so that is a really possible. But then evaluative assessment or research needs an extremely meticulous planning, because you need to know, you have to talk to the sponsor beforehand, because some of the people are not very comfortable to do the research. So explain to them, and very few companies are actually willing to do that kind of a research, not only in coaching, in other areas also. So how much they are open, and then meticulous planning and this one will be required. But that is how we can do it. We can do pre and post surveys also, not only assessments. Can I?
Baburaj Ashwin here.
Yeah, Ashwin.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
does this research be applicable for testing any new models or patterns that coaches observe if they want to test it in a larger group? Can
Yeah.
that also be, is that also applicable?
Yeah, definitely yes. But then what is the impact? What is the hypothesis? You are just testing it out, it will not be a research. The research,
Okay.
if it has to be, it need to be testing out something which you wanted to explore. Or you are
Okay.
creating a framework. Supposing you are creating a framework and testing it out and say that this framework is better than the other one. That is what I call it as in the earlier one, which we were talking about alternative hypothesis.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, so where we are talking about it, we are saying that okay, this framework is better than the other. We are using
Mhm.
grow model. Normally, many of us we are using grow model.
Yes,
It
yes.
is
Grow.
ingrained in our head. Either way, we can use different element, but still it is ingrained
Mhm.
in our head. But
Mhm.
is
Yes.
there any other model which is more explorative, or any steps which we have missed out in the grow model and change it to something else, and which again, if you do it with a sample size and create evidence around it,
Mhm.
using rigorous coaching, which I will be talking about it, the writing
Mhm.
process when you are coming to it, that will
Mhm.
be called as a research.
Got it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, general, which we are talking about, probable research topics, gender differences in coaching approaches. And these are not hypotheses. These are only general topics, which we need to convert it into an hypothesis. And general differences in coaching approaches, effects of mindfulness, meditation, many of the things are there. And cross-cultural coaching challenges, neuroscience and its implication in life coaching, all this can be converted into research topics. And this is general. Why I have put a different color on coaching for well-being? Well-being is considered to be one of the new area, though of course a lot of research is being done on well-being, but it's an area, and especially coaching for well-being in older adults, and strategies and effectiveness. Now we are talking about multiple variables here. Again, it will be a complex research, but it's an interesting research, and then there need not be a single researcher. There can be multiple researchers bringing into it. But the complexity of a collaborative research is that the mindset has to be clear, and everybody need to be with that characteristic of a child. And sometimes that may not be there, especially the D part of it. That means the diligence and availability of time and efforts is something which may not be there for each one of them. And there can be dropouts also possible from if you are working on a team research kind of a thing. What are the specific things? There are research which we can do it on return on investment of corporate coaching programs, how coaching affects employee engagement, retention, coaching and mentoring, which is more effective for leadership growth. Okay, now it is two variables independent, and then we are talking about leadership growth. So it is again, it is multiple variables, so complex. Okay, but if you convert that, you can convert all these things into simple, complex, or null hypothesis, or you can make it into alternative hypothesis. So hypothesis, how you wanted to make, need not be connecting to any of the type of topic which you are talking about. Another interesting thing which I have seen is that role of coaching in improving teacher performance and student outcomes. So somebody who is interested in providing insight to the education, or maybe an educationist, this particular research would be very relevant. And education is an area where we as coaches can do a lot of impact and lot of work which we can do it as in research. A few examples I thought will provide little more idea, and different examples I have taken. One, for example, one person has done 200 leaders years at coaching engagement, defined period, leaders and industries. That means the D part of it, that is defining the boundaries. What is the period? What are the type of leaders? What kind of an industries which I will do it? And he got responses from 112, 51% of response rate. It is a fantastic response rate. Mostly we may end up with getting 30 or 40% of it. 30%, if you get it, it is really good. So he got it 112%. The participant profile, and how did he define it? The participant profile, coaching received 4 to 24 sessions over a period of last 1 year. There is always an element of residency impact as far as research is concerned. So that he has taken into Connect, either as a standalone program or as a part of comprehensive leadership development cohort program. Now, these are all the way in which he defines the scope. And these scopes are very critical when you are when you are doing research. Second one is objective itself to learn the impact of coaching and training and where it differentiates and impacts, and therefore how to deploy training and coaching. Now, here, this is not an hypothesis because it is a too complex objective. But the hypothesis from this has to be simple and non-ambiguous, and it make it whether this can be converted it into, sometimes when you are getting into an research work, you may make it a simple one, or coaching, how coaching impacts organization, or you may come out and say that whether training is more impactful than this one, or you may come out with a null hypothesis. But in this particular case, he has conducted focus group studies, non-coaching as well as training in 12 different industries with a focus. So that takes time and efforts. Another example, to identify how the coaching sessions on live coaching during their college period impact or does not impact in their managing success. So here he has used a interview methodology, conducted 68 interviews using structured interviewing methods. But please look at the time period. After a period of 2 years. So this research took a longer period of time, and most of the people were not have. And it is really interesting sometimes to do a research on how, as a child, what was our curiosity and what is our curiosity level today as an adult. And definitely, on a ballpark figure, we can definitely say that all the inhibitions and the judgments which we carry in our life actually made us our curiosity to a lower level than what we were a child. But we will, if you do an empirical study also, it will be very difficult to do such kinds of research. But if we ask ourselves, we know that as a child, what curiosity we had and how, what are the factors. But we can do some research on that particular area. How do you think that the curiosity has come down, and what are the factors which are hindering? And therefore, others can work around and create tools or framework to, like what Ashwin was talking about, the frameworks or tools we can develop out of the evidence which the researchers created. Now, in general, given some 3 different, what are the outcomes which we are having? Few varied research outcomes. One research outcome is that 80% experienced positive changes in their roles after coaching engagement. So that is hypothesis tested out, and then he brought out this. The second one is that impact of workplace. The coaching helps organization and positively. The third one is that various coaching styles, but autonomy, that is, if a coaching process is, it is mainly based on the athletes, sports coaching, and autonomy coaching style, which grants players freedom and support, is most effective across all age groups, promoting both competence and psychological well-being, is another research which has been as an outcome which has come. Then I have picked up wellness and disability is 2 different areas. And in wellness, to adopt healthier behaviors among individuals with chronic medical conditions, wellness coaching was useful. Short-term improvements in self-efficacy, quality of life, and depression among patients with chronic conditions. Definitely, this hypothesis will not be a simple hypothesis. It would be multiple complex hypothesis, which might have looked at it. Then the third one is significant psychosocial benefits of wellness coaching are maintained over time, emphasizing the importance of certified and well-trained coaches. So these are all indicative of the importance of wellness coaching, credentialed coaches, the experienced coaches, and they can use these research findings to bring more authenticity for their work. Another interesting outcome is that many of us, sometimes even me, thanks to the charter chapter, I could look at it and come out, because I was also not aware of this particular area of research on actually Rahul, one of my colleagues, and he is also here. He was one of the guy. He was the guy who was asked last time when we were having the discussion. Can we discuss something on people with lesser abilities? Okay, so people with lesser abilities, how do we look at them? And I was not aware of it. I could not respond to him, and therefore I started working on it. And I found these three things. And coaching improves self-efficacy, resilience among disabilities, deaf individuals navigate their career, and confidence and life skills by Collins and Light. Career coaching. Another interesting thing is how deaf gain as a term, I never knew. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. The idea that being deaf is an advantage in some ways can be leveraged in coaching to create unique framework for personal and professional development. So there are a lot of studies for lesser skilled, lesser abled people, and I thought that would be meaningful. Now here I will pause and I will request Aruna or Ranjit to use this address framework. Discuss among us you. Maybe how many people are there with us? Around 25 people. So
We are
maybe
25.
two or three group members that discuss on the address. Is there any understanding, coaching? What are the things? Use the portable the topics which they wanted to explore. Is there anything area where they wanted to? How do they wanted to do that? Anything just to sink in this particular framework on address. So I am just keeping this address so that you can take a snap of it and use it in a discussion form. So let us give 15 minutes.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll have 8 breakout rooms with
Yeah,
around 2 to 3 people.
please. Any questions so far by the time breakout is there, and any questions or any slides which is required, please ask. I can put it in the chat box.
Will this PDF be provided post session, Babu?
Come again?
Will the PDF of this presentation be
Anybody,
provided?
I will be putting my Google, this one, Gmail, p2bleadership@gmail.com. If anybody can send it to this one. Anyway, this will be converted it into a, it will be available as a video. But still, if anybody wanted this, they can send a mail to me. I will be happy to share. Because the purpose of Coachability is just to gift it and share. So no issue at all.
Baburaj, can you please enter your email ID in the chat?
Yeah, I will show it to you at the end of it, but I will put it there. Rubinder and Jayasri, Namaskar, Namaste, Kannan, Namaste, Saraswati, Anand. I not interacted much with her. Welcome back. I think we may not have time for listening to everybody, but anybody would love to just maybe
randomly.
Yeah, 2 minutes, 1 minute or 2 minutes, just to share your experience. Any questions which are out of the discussion? Anything, most welcome. I can also learn something from that. Discussion is what makes a difference. Yeah, please. Now, yes, Deepali.
Yeah, hi. So, I mean, when we were discussing, two questions that we have were, first was like, what is the eligibility for doing this research? Like, the person should have like minimum some X years of experience for coaching experience for doing this research, or anyone who had just recently started can also do it. And the second question was like, is it like compulsory to do research? I mean, single person needs to be doing the research, or like 2-3 people can come together and do a research on the same topic?
The first answer is that anybody who is a child can do it, need not be. But it is when we are talking in a research context, if you are aware the research framework, at least, if you have gone through the research training credential, you need not be even credential. But then if you do that, it will be helpful. But as far as you are a child, that acronym which talking about it, you can, number one. Number two, the question of, what was the second question?
I mean, is it like 2-3 coaches come together and do a research?
It can be single, it can be 2-3 coaches, but as I indicated there, collaborative coaching, especially in India, is very difficult because you need to create that kind of a mindset to have that. And if you look at many of the places worldwide, if you look at it, most of the people in academic world, they do the research. And there is an assumption that I always believe, because I was in academia, I was in consultancy, I was in social development, I was in corporate. And therefore, I know that many people ask me this question, what is theory, what is practice? Actually, it's nothing like that. Actually, from the practice only theory came, actually. And from the theory, we are actually converting that theory into a framework and giving it back for us to make understanding. And then we say that how theory, and so that academic way of articulation of the thoughts is limited, and therefore we feel that it is too much academic. But ultimately, what academic speaks is nothing but practical, what is happening there. So collaborative coaching would be very helpful, very, 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 very powerful, because the learning will be fantastic. But then opening, because I must be ready, irrespective of my age, experience, listen to you without any judgment. That's what I said, being child, without, and I must agree. And then I will realize that, okay, Dibali said something which I was holding on to it, and I will appreciate Dibali. And that learning experience is fantastic as far as collaborative research is concerned, and it open up a new person within you. Research is a very, very, very powerful process of experience, but provided that person is child, dedicated, committed, curious, helpful, all this aspect is there. All that. That's a good question. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gida from Kuwait.
Baburaj, I just have one announcement to make. I would request everyone to switch on their cameras so that we can take a few pics. So please switch on your cameras and give your best smiles. That's all. I don't have any question.
It is only one smile which is best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Gida, you want to ask a question?
Yeah. We were going through the address. I and Rahul were there in my breakout room. So we were going through each of these acronyms, and then we were able to connect with most of it. But especially for me, when we were discussing standardize and synergies, there were a couple of questions which came. If you could just explain me, it's more of a clarification I require. When you say standardize the outcome, is this thing to be thought out when you are designing the research topic in the beginning? Because, like, for example, even if we take a country like India, I mean, standardization may not be always possible considering the length and breadth of the country if you're looking at. Or are these things, how important is this when you're designing a research study? In the beginning, is these things has to be considered? How are you going to standardize? How are you going to synergize? If you could throw some more details on these two double S.
Yeah. So when we talked about as a step address, this is the sixth point, standardization.
Yeah.
So it is not to be considered at the beginning of the research. Standardization, as I indicated very clearly, once you get the raw data, what is the consistency, what is the correctness, and how that data is aligned and connected with the hypothesis which you are looking at it. You will not be able to define what is required to be standardized in the beginning itself.
Yeah, that's
so that
true.
is not the way in which, that is why it is in the sixth stage. After the survey is implemented, or the process of research implemented, and then the data comes in, and I will be explaining the difference between the information and the inferences and insights, which will be now explaining it. But once that is happening, then we need to know how we correlate this data and standardize that with the hypothesis and the work which we have scope and alignment, and see, then only the insight would be much more meaningful. If you are not standardizing that from that point of view, you will not get an insight.
Got it.
That is why I'm saying.
And what about synergy?
And now, since we are discussing about inferences, information, see, correct me in case if I'm wrong, my understanding as far as, and I use it, when we talk about the information, is that when we look at the data, and many of the places I have seen, the data is just represented in some tabular form and then give some information related to that. That is rudimentary, and anybody who can understand that. The second one, and sometimes you will not understand with this, coefficiency and t-testing and all these things, the technical statistical tools which you are using it will be very difficult to understand it. But otherwise, it will be data and then information. But from this information, you look at it and say that there are some conclusions you are drawing, which we call it as an inferences. But insights are different. And so I always say, even when I'm talking to leaders, when I'm advising on the board and all these things, I said, can you create insights? All these presentations are good. Everybody knows this. What is there to explain? Everybody knows. What do you want? What are the insights out of it? That means it is not obvious, but you have a deeper perspective, which are not clearly obvious. and it can be actionable knowledge, can be converted it into this one, and something which the group feels that, something which I have not felt it like that, and that insight shifts the boardroom perspective when you discuss in. So that insight is what I'm talking about when we are discussing about standardization. That insight has to be connected with the hypothesis, whatever you are talking about it, and aligning with it, and removing all the raw data analysis. And many times I have seen it stops with the inferences and not insights, and does not add great value. I'll be talking about it now.
Got it.
Anybody else has? Geetanjali, great.
Baburaj, two quick questions. Saurabh, Aruna and I were together in the room, and Saurabh made this statement saying, there's a particular area that I want to explore, but most of my time goes into my practice. So research is desirable, but how do we make it feasible and viable? That was the question that I heard. The second point was on the E in address. You talked about ethical considerations, and since in coaching, we pay utmost respect to confidentiality, what are some of the ethical dilemmas that we need to be cognizant of when we are planning a research study?
The first question is that be a child, and only if you see, all children are not curious, all children are not helpful, all children are not. So researcher needs to create a space, and you need to understand there is a time and efforts required to, because it's an in-depth, it is a learning and relearning. Whatever he learned, it is, I will come to two other aspects, the benefit and this one, then he will realize, Saurabh also will realize that. So I will say that if he is a child, and the D part of it, the deterministic and this one, he could spend, from my side, I am a 24 into 7 into 24 or whatever way we speak. I'm that kind of a guy. So for me, time is not stopping. But maybe Saurabh and you can do a coaching process to find out what to be done and how do we go about it. That is number one. Number two, as far as the ethical, this one is that I will just say simply, be honest. Just be honest and be authentic in what you are doing. Because many times what we are doing, maybe, I will be again connecting it to next two slides, which I have. But then fundamentally, I will simply saying that it is to be honest and authentic. We can get into plagiarism, we can get into many other things, but just be there. And there are some other elements like gender neutrality, some that is ethical consideration, taking consent. Like what? If you are following the ICF ethical rules, you don't need to worry about it. Thanks, Geetanjali. Anybody else? Can I move to the next?
A quick one, Baburaj.
Yes, Amar.
So I had partnered with Rajneesh, and there were two elements which came about very strongly. One was when you have a hypothesis and when you have a topic very clearly outlined, there is so much of relevance that one has to give to the literature. Because the more you get the literature, you get more in-depth understanding of the topic, and it supports the edifice of your research. So that was really discussed at a great length. We did not have time to go to the other points, but this gave a very good perspective of how one can spend that much time required for getting it more authentic or more focused as far as the research is concerned.
Yeah, I will connect with that question with Saurabh's question. That see, Saurabh and Rajneesh, if you can just focus on the Ajay? Yeah, Saurabh and Rajneesh, if you can just focus on the A only and bring out a comprehensive literature review on any topic which you are looking at it, that itself can be converted into a base knowledge for you to, and that is the base perspective. And from there you can define whether you wanted to go about it. At least start with that is my request. My request is that start with that A part of it. And A part you can take 2 or 3 months time, 4 months time, but then half an hour just to spend on it and go to it. And I will give some references and connect. It will be much more easier how to make it this one. Can I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is it visible? Okay. Now let me take to the view. How do you write a research? So it is like a weaving magic. And many of, as I told you earlier, that many of the thesis or literatures are being written in such a manner, it is not very reader friendly. So when you are writing, it should be clear, concise and simple. Recently, I was sending a survey for that, and somebody very, very simple English word according to me, and the feedback came to me saying that that English word is very tough and people may not be understanding it. Can you change it? And then I changed it and resent it. And therefore, it is important that make it simple. And our assumption that this is everybody will, because of that word, everybody will understand can be a problem, especially when you are defining surveys, because some of the words have to be much simpler, and maybe understanding from the respondent's point of view is to be very clear. Survey making as well as when you're writing it. It should be reader focused, as I already told. Engagement, the reader should get engaged with the research work and research when you are reading that. Analysis, insightful depth. So I already talked about what is the information, what is the inferences, what is insights. So any research without insightful depth is no meaning in analyzing them. There is no value addition of that research. It's a superfluous work which has been, after doing a lot of work, if you are ending with that, either the way in which you have designed could be a problem, and we can relearn and then improve upon it next time, but you do not need to get disheartened because of that. And if you ask me, I would always love to have all this data crunching and then that evidence to show that whatever this one, I will put it as an annexure or maybe as an end of it, and talk about. There is a book on celestial prophecy. I don't know how many of you have read. It's a biological related book. They converted it, is like that entire research they have converted, volume 1, volume 2, converted it into a novel. There are some research work which has been converted it into. That is the beauty of which the foreigners are capable of doing it, and we just put that data into this one and say that okay, this is what is it. For every research outcome, we can convert that into a story. And once you convert that into a story, it will be engaging. It could be, and we ourselves will feel it's like a magic when you write it, and we ourselves will feel that what an outcome which we have created. And the last one is evidence, like what Gitanjali was asking along with Saurabh. One, credible support. The evidence what we need to show is very important. And when you are doing that, you need to show the sources. You need to do the right citations. And all these are very important when you are talking about evidence. That means from where are you sourcing this information? What is the kind of data which you are talking about it? And sometimes when you look at it, percentages, there is a beautiful article. The percentages can be a misnomer. And we know that, like ethical consideration, we were discussing about it. Sometimes for the sake of bringing out the research work, we bring it out. But we know that internally, we know that the quality has suffered. Yeah, Geeta, you wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, when we are talking about the language and customizing the research according to the respondents, I was just thinking about the field test. How important is field test? Especially if you are going for a quantitative survey kind of a methodology.
You said field, FIELD, right?
Yeah, FIELD, field test.
Can you expand it? What do you mean by that?
When I say field test, it's like, suppose, for example, if you're going for a quantitative survey and you test it before you get into the real audience. I mean, like actual your
sample testing.
your
what we say
sample test. Yeah, sample test. Yeah.
See, again, when I talked about the address, the review, I have used the R for review, review and course correction.
Yeah.
So that is the time where you can do this survey, because many of these things, when you do the sample testing, you will know that the correlation of some components are not matching and you can correct it. So sample testing is always meaningful and helpful to ensure there is a robust process which is happening. And in some cases, if it is even a structured interview schedule, send it to somebody who is in academic world, or maybe a person who is experienced in research, or maybe a person who does this kind of a thing. It will be helpful for you to learn, number one. And second one is to improve that questionnaire itself. Okay?
Yeah, that clarifies. Thank you.
Now, I also shared that how do you make research easy? And today, with the advent of technology, there is an hypothesis maker. You just put that hypothesis, these topics which is there into hypothesis, they will bring multiple choices of hypothesis. But please beware. Again, ethics and consideration, like what Gitanjali and Saurabh's team was discussing about it. Very important that convert this into your hypothesis, not the AI based hypothesis. AI provides a direction and it helps you to think little more easier, but then it should be your hypothesis. You have to be clear on it. There is a summarization tool, summarization 1, summarization 2, summarization bullet. Everything is possible now. And when you do the summarization, the language is simple, but again, you need to go through the summarization. Sometimes summarization also reduces the impact of some of the words which you are using. So summarization helps because too many words are there. And sometimes when you write, we become more verbose. And so ensure that is happening. Grammar and usage, I found Grammarly useful, and many other people who are using it maybe found it, maybe can use some other things, but Grammarly is very useful. Plagiarism checking, Grammarly also does it, and Dupli Checker also does it. There is an academic research, specifically PaperPal does, and many of these things, hyperwriting, summarizer, Grammarly, you can have free as well as for small things free. But otherwise, it is not very costly, 5,000, 6,000 rupees for a year, something like that. But it is worth even for our own improvement in English. And surveys, www.surveymonkey.com, HTTPS, and surveymonkey.com again is a very simple process. Even Google Sheet and Google Survey is very simple. And if you test it out, using that testing mechanism, it will be helpful. And writing and collaboration, many of the people are not using Google Docs, Microsoft Word, where we can dictate and it will text can be converted. It will be converted into this one. There are text audible when you talk and it converted it into text. Mechanisms are there. Many of these things are freely available, and that will make research easy. Any questions here? And others who know about some of these tools can add to this list and will be most welcome. Any other question here? The references, in many of the places, people say that no, there are not references available. But I found that there is Institute of Coaching, Dion Leadership, Frontiers in Psychology, Trine University. If you go there, you will be able to identify a lot of research articles, papers. International Journal for Mentoring, Functional Medicine Coaching Academy has got hundreds of cases available, hundreds of research work which has been done, and need not be everything meaningful, but some of them I found it very, very useful, and this one, so you can look at it. So now comes any questions on the view, writing approach, tools and reference list has been given. Now I will move to the benefits. So if you are talking, what is the benefit to the coaching community? I will say it's an impact is to be real, and any research actually provides it connects to the real world. It helps to align the theory and practice, which I was talking about it. So the practice, whatever we are practicing, actually we can improvise that through models and framework and knowledge. All practice are happening mainly because of relearning and understanding. The research is what is actually converting it into practices. So first and foremost thing is that it is a real world impact. The second one is that evidence-based practice always helps to build coaching as a profession. If we are actually wanted coaching to be a more meaningful business proposition, and of course, when more and more coaches will be there, the per day rate may come down, but there will be business for all. If that is what is there, then evidence-based practice is important, which brings authenticity to the profession. The third one is community coaching, is that it is adaptability. So I know that coaching is effective. I know which framework will be useful. Then the more and more I do research and bring out various nuances of whether it is on practice, whether it is on processes, then I can adapt according to the client needs or communicate to client needs using data, very clear evidence. And the last and most important thing is that research is logical. It is rational and structured thinking. So there is no confusion, there is no ambiguity, there is no element. So it has to be real, and that is where the research happens. And what it is for, what is it in for me? Actually, when you talk about it, I will say any researcher, if he does a good research, even one research in a year, it helps you to go into a peak. That means every researcher builds new perspectives. Every researcher actually experimented the existing understanding of me. I know this is what is it, but can I learn something? Can I new perspectives which is there? It helps data. Normally a researcher, any either PhD holder or anybody who is a good researcher, unfortunately, recently there was a data says that most of the theses are not meaningful, and lot of PhD. Therefore, the quality of PhD is not. I'm not quote unquote. Please pardon me. I'm not. But that is the reality. People become PhD without being qualitatively meaningful, bringing an analytical mind. Data speaks. When the data speaks to you as a researcher, so it brings a lot of analytical mind, helps you to create more explorative ideas and decision making process. And the last and most important for it is that it helps you to become an expert. It helps you to build knowledge and be an expert. People will start recognizing you because you speak from the knowledge. Even doing the A part of it, the literature review and analyzing a gap on a particular area builds lot of perspectives in your mind. So if you wanted to be as a coach, if you wanted to be and then once you become an expert, money flows. I always say Lakshmi, the goddess of money, flows when the Saraswati is there applied properly, and the goddess of Saraswati or the goddess of knowledge applies properly. So according to me, the benefit to a researcher is that it helps you to get into at a peak. That is what I wanted to say. And thank you all. And Rajneesh, question and answer. Rajneesh, I hope I have answered your question which you have posed first. Rajneesh, and any questions, most welcome.
I have a question. Do I wait for somebody?
I just wanted to ask this question. Rajneesh, has he got the answer? Then Rubinder put his hand up. You spoke, Prem. So I will ask Rubinder and then ask you. It's okay?
Sure.
Okay, Rubinder. Ask.
Not take much time. I have just 2 quick points to make. I think that was a
You can add
fantastic
also.
session.
Please add also to it. Don't no need to ask also. You can add. Yeah.
No, I just want to congratulate you, Baburaj, for a lovely session, very thought through, comprehensive, detail oriented. I think very, very useful. I have been playing with research, as you know, for a couple of years now. And so this was still very thought provoking. I'll just add on to say, I think the time is ripe, as you mentioned, that coaching moves from being an industry to a profession. And the only way to make it as a credible profession is to base our coaching practice on evidence and data, and also be very, very aware of what informs our practice. So just to add on to your lovely resource sharing, I'm adding 2 more, if you allow me, for budding researchers here. There's a wonderful paper written by the pioneers of coaching research, Grand Challenge for the coaching research for the century, which I have already shared in the group. It gives you a lot of areas to start with if you really want to get your hands dirty with respect to coaching research. And I think Saurabh is here. Last time I met Saurabh personally, and I promised him that I'm going to share a link to my drive, which has more than 100 coaching research papers. And that's a part of my PhD. Now I am doubting my own qualitative research after your wonderful claim, right? So I need to probably go back and look at how potent is that.
Don't kill me.
But no. But I'm taking the liberty to share my drive link with all
Wonderful.
those who might want to, pick up and read. So yeah, thank you so much. It was a lovely set.
Yeah, gifting. Yeah, Prem, please.
Yeah, so Baburaj, just one quick question. This is actually both ways. One is that just now Rubinder shared that information that where to get the coaching research papers to find out who has done what. That was one. And how do we get this? That is the main question. How do we get this authenticated by the ICF? Do they have a channel? Let's say if I do a research and I want to publish it, what is the channel with the ICF?
No, there is a specific research committee is there, and I think Rubinder knows, or Gitanjali
Just
knows.
one ad. So this gentleman called Joel I don't know his second name, but the first name is Joel. He's the head of research at ICF. You will find all the details of the ICF research portal along with Joel. So all the surveys that come from ICF, you will see Joel's name is there. You can directly write.
My suggestion, Ravinder, first of all, thank you. My suggestion, Prem, is that there are mechanism of writing blogs, meaningful blogs, and that provides again a structured mind. So you start with blogs and then make your presence felt, and then move into that area. It does not have any connection between both of them, but then you can try that. So your presence is created there. That could be one mechanism. I am available, as you know, so that you can reach out.
Thanks a lot, Baburaj, and thanks a lot, Rupinder, too.
Yeah, and it was so nice, Rubinder, as sharing her knowledge also. A gift is one of the mechanism of doing it. Yeah. Any other questions? Anything?
I think LS here, Baburaj. It's
LS.
Not question.
I can't see you.
Not a question. Just to add from Rupinder, it's a brilliant session. Normally in our researchers journey, minimum of 2 days. The whole, actually, the gamut you have covered in 90 minutes. It's start from the framework to the fundamentals to the end result. It's not for exclusively for the coaches. Anyone who is interested in even building or writing a research paper or publish a paper can start taking these fundamentals and framework and work on this. In fact, this we should request you, and maybe I will take it up separately with our academy. We should actually make a session for the PhD scholars.
Coming from 2 doctorates, that is, one is Dr. Rubinder and Dr. LS. I think I don't have any words to say. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the appreciation.
No, this was amazing, Baburaj, undoubtedly. This was very good. Excellent introduction. And even for people who are aware, it was just going a little deeper and clarifying their thought processes. Very, very good session, undoubtedly.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and encouraging me. Anybody, any other questions? Otherwise,
Ashwin here. I just wanted to add one thing.
Ashwin, yeah, please, Ashwin.
Thank you, sir. So I just wanted to know, I have no questions, but it was a very insightful session, so very well structured. And the way I didn't know that there are so many diversifications and insights into this, and there's even a research being category being there in coaching. So that was something really very insightful. Thank you.
Oh, great, Ashwin. Hope to see you as a researcher.
Yeah, thank you, sure, sir.
Any help is required, please reach out to any one of us. We will be very happy.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Saurabh, I think we have responded to your question.
Yes, thank you. I enjoyed the session.
Anuradha wanted to ask some question or clarification.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing, sir. Good evening. I'm here for the first time, and
nice.
I can say I'm just a budding coach. Okay.
Yeah, all.
This is from Hemant Deshpande Career Coaching. And this is something very insightful and very, impressive session, and where we had absolutely no idea about coaching research as such, as Mr. Ashwin mentioned. And this, is adding to something positive vibes for us as coaches. There is something else also to be done other than just coaching. And this is something amazing. Thank you very much.
So
hope
nice
to get connected with you.
The basic purpose itself is like what Rubinder was talking about, is to create coach, because research makes a lot of difference to us as individuals and also to the community. And ultimately, without community, where are we? Who are we? Because the parents, we are not. Our identity lies with our parents. So our identity lies with our coaching community. So if we can give it back, that is what Rubinder, without even asking, has given whatever she has. Because what is there to hold on to the knowledge? Just share it with people, so that's what.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing, and you mentioned in the probable topics to be taken and all that. And since I get a lot of students mainly, and I'm doing a lot of sessions for students also, and this is something which made me think, oh, why not I do something, with respect to doing something with the students.
You can reach out to me anytime.
So, sure, sir. I didn't get your email ID. I couldn't see.
P2B. I will just
B2B.
P2B leadership@gmail.com. That means people to business.
Yeah.
I have put it there in the chat.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Saurabh, you wanted to say something?
No, I didn't.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think back to Aruna and Ranjit and Amar.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful session. Thank you, Baburaj, for weaving your magic.
Thanks, God. Thanks.
And I'm sure this session addressed your childlike questions in this field of research in coaching, and hope this take you to the peak. So I hope I covered all the 4-5 frameworks or the acronyms. Thank you, everyone. And
thanks a lot for being here, and let us
Thank you. Thank you.
Let us see many more research.